All right. Hello. Welcome, Amanda. How you going?
I'm fab, Avon. How are you?
Fantastic. And if you're watching,
Amazing.
you're on the Business Octopus live stream. Welcome along. Now, today, hopefully, you would have read the title on the post. But yeah, don't quit your day job. No, that doesn't mean we're saying you can't sing. It's not saying that you're not good at something. But I think sometimes people decide they're going to do something when they probably shouldn't, or they're not ready for it, or they haven't thought about it well enough, or maybe they leap before they look instead of look before they leap. So that's kind of what we want to talk about here today. So I said the statement to you earlier that if I had $1 for every time I heard someone say, well, I left my corporate job to start a business, then I'd probably be quite rich. Now,
You
not to
would.
say
Cliche.
yeah.
Cliche.
not to say you shouldn't do that, but let's set some parameters to kind of some expectation management before we start to really go deep into, I guess, financial ruin potentially. So if you're listening, we have your best interest in mind.
Absolutely. We're here to set you up to win.
What have you heard? Is there anyone that you don't have to name names. We're not here to name and shame. I mean, I know someone who put like 10 grand a month worth of Facebook ads, and then 3 or 4 months in, shut up shop, got a job, 40 grand in the hole.
Right. And, that breaks my heart. And I think we talk about optimism bias. My goodness. So we all think that we are just going to go straight out of the gate and crush it. So yeah, I'm cool. I'm going to drop 10K on Facebook ads over the next month and a half, and I'm going to get all these customers. I'm going to have so many customers I won't be able to move, and it's going to be amazing. No, it doesn't work like that. And there's quite a few reasons that it doesn't work like that. Avon, we haven't proven our product. We don't know who the correct humans to market to. It's like we were talking about last week, it's like going to the casino and just throwing 10K on black and hoping for the best. It's not a strategy. We need to be smarter than that, right?
Well, you haven't probably, even if you get the leads, you probably haven't nailed your sales process. And even if you nailed your ideal customer is at the right time, are you aware of how long it takes? Sometimes people go, oh, and here's my proposal. Maybe they haven't followed up 5 times, or maybe, like they get a whole bunch and then they can't actually deliver because they've closed a heap of deals. It's really bulky. It's a lot of stop start. It's a lot of everything or nothing. And so you don't really have, it is a very difficult thing to start a business. And I think that when people try to, they leap before they look instead of look before they leap. And so they've maybe not thought about, and some stuff you got to experience and go through the pain. That's just part of the journey. But if you were to maybe do that on a smaller scale before you just drop your one and true sort of solid income, then you're going to be able to do that from a position of safety. Like, I know that it makes sense if you focus everything, but build the well before you need the water. You need to know the people around you, what they're interested in, get some feedback outside of your own little sphere. And then, eventually at some point you will go all in. Maybe you start with a full-time job, then you go to a part-time job, then you do a couple of gigs. But other than that, your business needs to one slowly comes on, the other one slowly comes off. And then eventually you'll be transitioned to the new way of earning income.
Absolutely. And you will work so much. People work best when they're not under that stress of like the cash flow situation, right? If I'm not stressed about paying my mortgage or the bills or, looking after the family, you will perform infinitely better and move so much faster in your business. So please heed our advice.
Well, it might take years, I think for early on, we sort of, one client at a time, and there was a lot of gaps in between. And, I kind of only just was able to deal with not paying myself. And we're sort of, a little bit of baked beans on toast early on, when you go to buy a house or something, or when you stretch yourself further than you're comfortable with. And, you just need to be aware that you're probably going to get to that limit. So if
Yeah.
a small amount of financial stress is not acceptable, you're in the wrong business.
Absolutely. Business is not your business.
It's none of your business. No.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Yes.
it always
So
takes longer than you think.
takes longer
Yeah,
than you think. Yeah.
even if you plan like 6 months, it might take 9. Um, there are lucky breaks. There are people that do it faster. Not everyone gets that lucky break. Plan as though you don't have any luck. And if you do, great. Then lucky you.
Absolutely. So look, what's best case scenario, what's worst case scenario, and potentially somewhere in the middle is probably where you'll land.
You're going to fail a hell of a lot more times than you win. So
Yes.
if you know that you've, like the 10 grand ad example, right? You should really only advertise once you've proven something that works. People know what it is that you sell. People reasonably need it and will pull their wallet out and actually pay for it. They can't be your friends. I usually have this thing of go on threes. You know, if you're selling to friends and family, they might do you a favor or like get over the line just to, you know, appease you. But they're not ultimately your, you know, good market testing. You need people that you don't know that you've just come across to then sell to. If you get 3, you know, once is whatever, 2 is a coincidence, 3 times is a trend. Now you understand that you have an actual business and it will scale. Now it's just time in saddle, getting more conversations, scaling that engine and pushing forward. So
Absolutely.
you're going to make mistakes in that. Like how long has it taken you to get your business model, your sales process just right?
Let's see. I went all in on this business at the end of 2019. So it's taken a hot second. And I was saying to Avon earlier today, I only just feel comfortable with who we are, what we do, who we serve, and have an entire process around being able to pitch it, sell it, close it, deliver it. So it takes time. It takes time. And you will learn. There'll be clients that you decide you don't want to work with. There'll be people that you do really like to work with. So you're constantly iterating and failing, making those mistakes, failing forward, as we like to say, so that you're learning as you go and refining things so that you're setting yourself up to win.
Well, I reckon, you know, even, you know, 10 years on in business, so we're still changing things and testing and bringing new ideas and concepts. So we recently implemented a new thing in our sales process literally last week. And it's, you know, took a fair few hours. Like I probably spent 3 days straight setting it up. And that I think is going to improve the way we do things. But, you know, like that's where we're at today. It's going to evolve as you grow. And as technologies change, like now the size of client, the complexity of the client has increased to a certain point where it makes sense to do what we're doing now, which would not have made sense, you know, me as a solo operator trying to figure stuff out. You may not have the budget. You may have like not tested enough. And if you go spend all that money, then you'll go selling something that no one wants, no one cares about, and no one's ever going to buy.
Absolutely. And I think exactly. And one thing that always comes up, and I know I'm guilty of this, and luckily Avon will always kick my butt and tell me to stay in my lane. We can't, when we're in that phase where we're growing, we're on a mission, we're not on an adventure. So we can't chase shiny objects. We need to create a system. We need to work that system. If something's not working in your sales, your marketing, and your delivery, you can shift it, you can change it, but ultimately you're on that mission to get to your revenue goals so that you can then maybe start to look at going on little side quests or adventures. But until you get to that point, what did you say, Avon? You say you got to get to $1 million before you can start sort of.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think what that helps to do, I mean, maybe it's not $1 million, but it's a good idea to set a lofty goal to go, let's just focus on this one thing that we know works until we get to a point where we can start to be a little bit more outside the box and creative. And I think sometimes people go, oh, I'll get to 5 customers and then I'll have it. No, you'll grow faster if you just focus on the one thing. I'm guilty of it.
Right.
And we had someone in our community. Yeah, we had someone in our community the other day. They're like, I just like chasing new shiny things. And that's cool. Make that your hobby, but you need to focus on what gets you revenue first. You can do your hobby once you make the $1 million. And anyway, the long story short, he ended up joining the community because he said he had too many things on his plate, which is exactly why he should have joined, so that he could kind of not.
So we could streamline it.
Keep your focus. Yeah. You need to do more of this and less of that. So that's kind of what, like, having an outside perspective. And again, like, I've got people telling me all the time, focus on this, focus on that. And sometimes when you're close to the problem, you're like, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. No, it's not. Shut up and do the work. The boring stuff scales.
It does. Boring does scale. And as much as we all think we're, unicorn sparkle magic things, we've got to do the boring stuff before we can go and do the cool stuff. So be boring, friends. Take it from us.
Like, people want passive revenue, or they want things that are easy, but the easy stuff comes from doing the hard stuff.
It does.
If you build the asset, if you build the process, if you build the marketing, if you write the book, whatever it is that you're doing, that's going to scale because you've done the work, not because you've gone, I'm just going to do the easy thing. Then there's no value creation.
Exactly. And what the strange equation, if you like, is if I want to get more time, you need to trade off some time. So you might have to work nights and weekends for the first 2, 3, 4 years to get yourself to that point where you have that time freedom. So you've got to give away the thing at the beginning that you're striving for. And I think that the same can apply to money as well. You got to spend money to make money, right? So remember that when you're embarking on your journey, whether you're starting out or you're maybe in the valley of despair and you're struggling, and we've all been there. We've all been in that position where we're ready to just quit and go and get a job. Don't do that. Also, there are options. Avon, we were saying to someone the other day, don't be afraid to go and get the side gig, a part-time job, to keep everything afloat, right?
Well, yeah, like you got to look at all your revenue coming in, and if it's not enough to meet expenses, business goes bust. So all of your work goes in the bin. So would you prefer that, or would you suck it up and stack some shelves at Woolies in the middle of the night if that's what it takes?
100%. Exactly.
Boeing,
exactly.
I'm pretty sure it's Boeing, but one of the most major companies out there, during or just after the war, or during the war, were making furniture. They were like just doing whatever they could out of scraps to survive. And now they're like one of the biggest companies. I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head right now, but it's like up there with Boeing or Airbus or something like that.
Right.
So
get scrappy if you got to get scrappy.
That's it. And a lot of your best ideas come out of being that scrappy phase. The person who tripped over in a glue factory and accidentally spilt sand on a paper glue sheet, discovered sandpaper. Things like that, where you don't have to always have those accidental new product innovations that gets the world over, but it might be that you've been a little bit innovative and done something for a client that you had to make it work because they had limited budget, you had limited time, so you built some method, some process, some little tool to get the job done, whatever it is. That's now your secret sauce, and you can scale that so you can do the better job faster and make it cost less, or charge the same money and just make more. Up to you. But that happens when you're in that scrappy phase, not because you've spent forever designing all of these products. In fact, today I was talking to someone about putting content in our community where they could use flyers and things like that. And I said, look, I could go and put 10,000 things in there, but if you're only going to use 3 of them, what's the point? So I'll wait until you ask me what you need, and then I'll put that in there. So that's kind of what you get to do with being scrappy, is you get to build what people are actually asking for, not what you think they want. So it might be that first client is a lot of work because they're like, I want this. And you go, here is a document guide that I'm going to give you, but give me an hour because we're going to write it first. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You may need to create things.
Cut, paste, or click and send. Done. So yeah, first client, you'll refine, and then automate and scale.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't be afraid to do both and take a job. Like I guess for me, I'd had a few part-time jobs in between things, and
Yeah.
you know, one example was in COVID, right? That knocked everybody
Mm-hmm.
around, and
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that we had a business that was gonna like fail as a result, but people stopped making decisions. At a certain point, they're
Yeah.
like, let's just see where this goes. And so for a good 3-4 months, no one would do anything, and you know, we
Mm-hmm.
still had to put food on the table, still had to pay bills. So I went and did some Army Reserve work. I got my uniform back on. Don't know how I fit into it, but I
Nice.
did. And probably we couldn't do now. But yeah, I went and helped out with the chloroquine trials. So I mostly paperwork and admin, but you know, it was still
Yeah.
good just to get my hand back into things and get some money on the table while I figured out until the rest of the world figured itself out and we got on with things. What about you? Have you
Absolutely.
had
Yeah. Oh,
anything like
yeah. I had 3 side gigs during that period before everything picked up again. So I was a demonstrator for LG Electronics. I was working at EB Games, and what was the other one? Oh, I was hosting trivia. So, and all of those things made me a better business owner. So, and you know, I'm good at selling myself. So I just walked in and basically got myself jobs just like that, like saw the
that?
opportunity. And like while other people were sitting around, you know, pulling out their super and, you know, getting their
Mm.
um, sole trader,
Yeah,
whatever it was
yeah,
at
yeah.
the time. Yeah. I was like, no, man, there's opportunity out there. Boom, 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 boom. So I was everywhere, and I was like, I got 3 jobs in like I think 3 weeks or something. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to work them all. And I was doing contract facilitation. I was running my business, and it was a crazy time. But I learned a lot. I got a lot done, and yeah, we got through it.
Well, it's that sort of resourcefulness that you need to be able to make something happen. You know, like think of all the big stories where I think it was I don't know, Southwest Airlines. I'm not good with the references, but one of the American
Yeah.
airlines, Spirit,
Yeah.
I think it was. He basically took um, like I think it was the entire payroll. It was 20 grand or something like that for that
Yeah.
week, and went to the casino and turned 20 grand into 50 grand, then had enough to pay employees and fuel the plane. And that what stopped them from going bust. There was another occasion where I think Elon Musk was 3 hours from
Oh
running
my
out of capital
God.
and then having to pay or getting capital and then having to pay a bill. And that was like 3 hours from like, you're at the nth, we're going to cut you off, we're going to bankrupt you, to like, all right, we're still good. So
Oh my
there's
gosh.
a hell of a lot of things where it really has just about come down to, you know, putting all the money on black at the casino, but with a lot of money or with a lot at stake,
Yes.
not just like,
Yes.
you know, 5 grand in ads. So
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like my story is not really remarkable at all now.
no, it's
Not the
fantastic.
kind
No,
of
I'm
story.
saying that
Yeah.
you're up there with the people that are like ballsy like that. Like that's like the fact that you could go out and do that. You know, you hustle and grind, you make stuff happen, you make things
It's
move.
true.
That's a skill.
It's
That's
true.
something you need.
Also, I probably I don't think we want Elon's war stories of like getting into that position. That's some next level stress, humans. Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, if you're dealing with hundreds of millions or billions of dollars at that scale, that's a whole nother level. Absolutely.
That is absolutely.
So, all right. So yeah, don't be afraid to do both. Test
Mm-hmm.
and be while you're scrappy, and figure out what your products are, which will help you to scale. And you know, like we sort of said all of this, and it kind of sounds like don't do it. But you know, like we said at the start, it was more about look before you leap, and
Yeah.
make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. That expectation, that forewarned is forearmed. We want you to win. We're trying to set you up for understanding what's involved, and you know, throughout this, we've given some tips to navigate it. And I guess the how you have to think and how you have to approach and attack it. You can't be passive observer. You can't wait for things to happen. You are the things. You are the person that makes things happen. So that's what's
That's
going to
right.
drive anything forward in the business. Is
100%. 100%. Exactly. And the
so
world is better off if you're in business. So be in business. Just remember,
yes,
heed our
and
warnings.
make sure you test and get real feedback. Otherwise, no one's going to buy. So if you have other questions, or if you're curious about that, or you want to know how you can, make your idea into a reality, join the Relevant community. There's heaps of other entrepreneurs, people like us who've done it before, who are there to help you win. We don't want to see people fail. We want to see people win. So we're going to give you the hard truths. We're going to push back. We're going to ask questions that may seem uncomfortable, but are really important for your growth and your understanding of what it is that you actually need to do, who you need to become to make your business real. So
Exactly.
thank you for watching, and I really do hope you are staying classy.
Indeed.